Located in the heart of the Middle East, on the eastern shores of the Mediterranean, Israel is a small but strategic country with an area of approximately 22,000 square kilometers. Its population is around 9.7 million, the majority of which are Jews. It borders Lebanon to the north, Jordan to the east, Egypt to the south, and the Palestinian territories to the west. Jerusalem has been declared its capital, but this status is internationally controversial.
The history of Israel is not just the history of a state, but also of a struggle for faith and identity that spans thousands of years. For Jews, it is the Promised Land. For Muslims, it is the home of Jerusalem, the first Qibla and the third holy city. The country is one of the most religiously, historically, and politically controversial regions in the world.
The foundations of modern Israel were laid in the 19th century with rising anti-Semitism in Europe. The ideology called Zionism advocated for Jews to establish an independent state in their own land. This idea was brought to the world stage by figures such as Theodor Herzl. These lands, known as Palestine during the Ottoman period, came under British mandate after World War I. With the Balfour Declaration of 1917, Britain promised the Jews a homeland in Palestine. However, this promise caused great anger among Palestinian Arabs. Thousands of Jews fled Nazi Germany in the 1930s and immigrated to Palestine. This wave of immigration increased tensions between the local Arab population and the Jews. Although the British tried to balance the two sides, the conflict escalated rapidly. In 1947, the United Nations presented a plan to divide Palestine into an Arab and a Jewish state. The Jews accepted the plan. The Arabs rejected it. This plan laid the groundwork for future wars and division. On May 14, 1948, the State of Israel, led by David Ben-Gurion, declared its independence. The next day, Arab armies from Egypt, Jordan, Syria, Lebanon, and Iraq launched an attack. Thus began the First Arab-Israeli War. At the end of the war, Israel took control of a larger area than the UN had suggested. But the price of this victory was high. Hundreds of thousands of Palestinians were displaced and forced to leave their homes. This event is known to Palestinians as the Nakba, or catastrophe. With the establishment of Israel, the Palestinian issue became not only a regional, but also a global problem. Refugee camps, displaced peoples, torn identities. Since then, the region has never truly found peace. In the early years, Israel accepted hundreds of thousands of Jewish immigrants from Europe, the Soviets, Yemen, Ethiopia, and North Africa. These large migrations enriched the country's ethnic and cultural makeup, but also created internal sociological tensions.
The country adopted a strict defensive strategy immediately after its founding, implementing compulsory military service, a sophisticated intelligence network, and a culture of high alert against external threats. The Israeli army quickly became one of the most powerful militaries in the region.
Economically, Israel began a major development drive in the 1950s. Collective living spaces called kibbutzim were established in agriculture, and major investments were made in technology. This period was a struggle for survival on the one hand, and a construction process on the other. Israel has remained close to the West, especially the United States, in its foreign policy. American aid and diplomatic support have played a major role in the country's survival. However, this alliance has caused great reactions in the Arab world. Jerusalem remained one of the most sensitive issues. Israel declared Jerusalem as the indivisible capital, but this status was not recognized by the Palestinians or the international community. The city became a flashpoint, containing the holy sites of three major religions. In domestic politics, the country has always tried to balance ideological and religious groups. There has always been tension between secular Jews and Orthodox groups, and between Arab citizens and the state structure. There is democracy in Israel, but this democracy has always been accompanied by tension. And in all this chaos, Israel has defined itself as both a refuge and a fortress. Defended as the home of the Jewish people, it has also been criticized for its domestic and foreign policies. The country has become a place where admiration and fear are intertwined. Before moving on to the next section, If you watched this video up to this point, thank you guys. If you want to support us a little, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and leave a comment. After the 1948 war, hundreds of thousands of Palestinians fled to neighboring countries as refugees. The new generations born in the camps grew up with memories rather than their lands, laying the foundation for resistance and despair that would last for generations. The Six-Day War of 1967 changed the fate of the Middle East once again. Israel captured the West Bank, Gaza, the Golan Heights, and the Sinai Peninsula. This victory strengthened Israel militarily, but also increased international pressure with the occupations. After the war, Palestinians in the West Bank and Gaza began living under Israeli control. The military presence, checkpoints, and illegal settlements in these areas made daily life difficult for the people. The conflicts have now become a people's resistance rather than a country's war. The Yom Kippur War of 1973 began with a surprise attack by Arab countries. Israel stopped the attack but suffered heavy losses. This war reshaped both the regional balance and the security perception of Israeli society. The First Intifada, which began in 1987, was a civil resistance movement in which the Palestinian people began by throwing stones and protesting in the streets. Israel's military response led to harsh criticism from the world community. This period brought the Palestinian issue to the center of the international media. In 1993, the Oslo Accords opened the door to a hopeful era. Israel and the Palestine Liberation Organization agreed to mutual recognition. However, this wind of peace was short-lived. The agreements collapsed before they could be implemented. The Second Intifada, which broke out in 2000, was much more violent. This period, in which civilians lost their lives on both the Israeli and Palestinian sides, caused social trauma to deepen. Hope gave way to anger. The security wall that Israel built represented both a physical and symbolic separation. This concrete wall surrounding the West Bank separated many Palestinians from their land. Israel defended it on security grounds. The world compared it to apartheid. The Gaza Strip has been one of the harshest areas of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Israel withdrew from the area in 2005, but imposed a blockade, making Gaza one of the most densely populated and poorest areas in the world. Caught between the rise of Hamas and Israeli military operations, the people of Gaza live in a constant cycle of conflict and destruction. Even basic needs such as electricity, clean water, and medicine have become luxuries. Children here are more used to the sound of bombs than to play. Israeli society is also divided, with left-wing groups that want peace on one side and right-wing and religious groups that prioritize security on the other. Arab citizens inside the country also struggle at times with feelings of exclusion.
Religious identity is at the center of politics. Tensions around the Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem affect not just Israel, but the entire Islamic world. Every incident also has an impact on international diplomacy.
Issues such as media freedom and judicial independence have also become contentious in Israel in recent years. Some of the government's reform initiatives have brought people to the streets, where thousands of people have marched to protect justice and democracy. Despite all this chaos, Israel has become one of the world's leading countries in high technology, agriculture, and the defense industry. Its entrepreneurial culture, universities, and R&D investments are remarkable. While this moves the country forward, it also increases its internal contradictions. And today, Israel is a country that stands between a success story and a tragedy. The walls it built to survive also hinder communication and peace. The story of this country remains an unsolved equation. Israel is not just a small state in the Middle East. It is also a dream and an identity symbol for millions of Jews. It lives in close contact with the Jewish diaspora scattered around the world. This connection creates a strong network of both cultural and financial support. The United States is Israel's strongest ally. Billions of dollars in military aid, diplomatic protection at the United Nations, and a strategic partnership have bound the two countries together, but the alliance has sometimes drawn criticism at home and abroad. Israel's relations with the European Union are more complex. Although there is close cooperation in technology and trade, there are frequent diplomatic tensions over Palestinian policy. Its settlement policies in particular have been the target of serious criticism in the West. Israel is one of the countries most criticized in United Nations resolutions. Occupied territories, interventions against civilians, and practices contrary to international law are constantly on the world's agenda. Israel often describes these criticisms as double standards. Inside the country, change is an inevitable reality. Rising living costs, the housing crisis, and social inequality are creating unrest, especially among young people. The streets of Tel Aviv are no longer just anti-war, but are also filled with demands for justice and economic rights. The tension between secularism and religiousness in Israel is growing by the day. While the influence of Orthodox Jews in public life is increasing, secularists are disturbed by this situation. Society is divided between religious norms and modern lifestyles. Israeli citizens of Arab origin often feel like second-class citizens. Despite having the right to vote, they face discrimination in many areas, from education to employment. This is a major threat to domestic peace. The technology and defense industry is Israel's global showcase. The country is one of the world's leading centers for cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, and agricultural technology. It's not for nothing that it's called the startup nation. However, the prosperity that comes with technology is not reflected equally in all segments of society. Rural areas, immigrant communities, and ultra-Orthodox groups cannot be sufficiently integrated into the economic system. This deepens the social gap. Culturally, Israel has one of the most vibrant arts and music scenes in the Middle East. Nightlife in Tel Aviv, traditional festivals in Jerusalem, and international film productions reveal the different faces of the country. Creativity persists despite political oppression. The biggest question for the future is a lasting peace possible in these lands? Although a two-state solution has been talked about for years, there has been no concrete progress. Each new government either maintains the status quo or makes it tougher. The climate crisis is also one of the major threats facing Israel. The depletion of water resources, drought, and regional food crises could trigger. This is a problem that will affect not only the borders, but the entire region. Young generations no longer just want security. They want freedom, justice, and equality. Young people in Tel Aviv, soldiers on the Gaza border, or students in Jerusalem. Each one lives a different story, but is worried about the same future. And perhaps Israel's greatest test begins here. To be strong or to be fair? To survive, will walls be built or bridges be built? The answer to this question will determine not only Israel's fate, but the fate of the entire region. In this video, we witnessed a striking story from the founding of Israel to today's social and political developments. On the one hand, this is a country shaped by the struggle for survival, and on the other hand, it is a geography at the center of unresolved conflicts. We don't know what the future will bring, but the questions that need to be asked today are still the same. Can justice, peace, and security coexist in these lands? If you found this video helpful, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and share your thoughts in the comments. Because on this platform, your voice is as valuable as what is being said.